Hey,
Good morning.
hi
Hi.
Ruth, how are you?
We both felt we would have a chat this morning. We've been talking about having an Instagram live for a few weeks now, and I suppose we're just going to keep it short because we know that people are busy with things and we all have short attention spans. Uh, but I had a conversation with you a few weeks back now, and another more in-depth conversation yesterday around what Christmas means to us this year, and in light of everything that is happening in Gaza and the West Bank. And chatting to you in the last couple of months has really opened my eyes around the significance of our relationship to the Holy Land and to the birthplace of Jesus. And it's a week away from Christmas. And I just really wanted to get your insights and your opinion on a couple of things. Yeah,
Happy
as
you.
as an Irish Palestinian person who has grown up with both faiths, the Christian and the Muslim faith, and an understanding of both. Do you want to just say an
A
introduction?
wee, a wee snippet. Okay,
Everybody
yeah.
knows you at this stage anyway.
um, so yes, mom is Irish, dad's Palestinian. Mom would come from, a Catholic family. Mom herself and would be like non-practicing, but the Catholic faith and the Christianity and Christmas has always been there. My grandparents were, faithful. And I come from a Muslim family from my father's side. So in terms of like how I grew up, maybe it's not the norm, but it was very familiar for me to be part of both communities. I did like it's not like we talked about it, or anyone told me that I was part of both communities. I just was both. I was a Irish Palestinian, so like Irish Middle Eastern Arabic girl living in the West at times. Sometimes I lived in Arabic countries, depending on the year. But I suppose religion was never something that I was afraid of, because being Muslim was was normal. Do you know what I mean? Like hearing the prayers, the Adhan was normal. Like anytime I used to go home to Morocco and I would hear the Adhan, I would be like, oh, I love this sound. You know what I mean? Like it was home to me. The call to prayer. Same with like Christmas time. We all celebrate Christmas. So I've had, I wouldn't say I'm super duper religious, but I'm definitely religious by culture.
Yeah.
And so religion has never terrified me, or has never been like, oh God, something to be fearful of, because faith, um you know faith had a place, definitely. I noticed that faith had a huge place in the Arabic Muslim world, um because just people are very faithful.
Yeah.
And like my granny had my Irish granny from Leitrim had a lovely photo of Jesus, lovely painted photo of Jesus on the wall. Do you know what I mean? A pride possession.
Yeah.
And there was little wee bits of like crosses, and Mother Mary. Like Mother Mary is a huge figure in Ireland. Even in, like, you go to some of the fairy wells and you'll see these like homages to the mother.
Mm.
And
You
so
said
I love all
that
that.
Mother Mary is such an important figure in
In
Islam.
Islam. Yeah, I mean, like, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the most important woman in the Quran. And my grandmother actually was called Mary. She was called Miriam. Miriam is Mary in Arabic. So you'll find that a lot of the Arabic names that we think are Arabic are actually the Arabic versions of the same names that we have in Christianity or in the West. So like Joseph is Yusuf,
Mm.
David is Dawood. Um, what's another good one now? Isa is Jesus, and Isa is the same thing in the Irish language, Isa.
Mm.
Um, we're all connected. We're all from the same
You
source,
were
I suppose.
you were at a Muslim Christian interfaith Christmas service at the weekend,
Yes.
was it? And I know you had a chance to sing some songs and also speak from your own perspective as Irish Palestinian. As a former secondary and primary school teacher, I used to teach music and drama in primary schools and secondary schools. You said something to me that really, like, it was just like a big moment of, oh my God, yes, that we, every Christmas, we dress up our little children as Bedouin Palestinians, you know, around the manger. Talk to me about that idea of representation and how Palestine has been almost, it's almost like it, as I took from you, I was chatting to yourself and your parents a couple of weeks back, and it's almost like it's a place in Narnia, this Bethlehem, this mythical place. You know, Narnia and Bethlehem are both Palestinian towns, cities under occupation now. Talk to me about the representation of how we almost distance ourselves from this mythic place at this time of year.
Yeah, I suppose it's strange that, like, you know, like people our age, Ruth, and you know, a lot of people, like you said, don't know that Bethlehem is actually a real place. You know, it's just a you know, like a place of Narnia, or like a mythical place in the Bible. But Bethlehem is a real town. It's a Palestinian town. They speak Arabic there, and they have churches there, of course, and they're all taken care of by the Palestinian Christian community, which I don't know how they have been totally written out of today's world. Do you know, there is like the first Christian community, the first Christian converts are Palestinian, you know, like maybe like they're the people of the land. So even before Palestinians were called Palestinians, we were Canaanites from the old tribes. Like the people, there's always been people of that land, and they either, you know, like passed through or settled, or, you know, so like every Palestinian today has Jewish blood in them, DNA, old Christian blood in the DNA. And because it was a place of conversion, and it was a place where all faiths came to go to the houses of God, and you know, and there were native people there that stayed, and like with the tides of war, or with the new leaders, either, you know, converted, or, you know, were able to still practice. And I suppose I'm always like, you know, I find it strange that, you know, a lot of my friends are primary school teachers, and like they'd be lovely, hilarious, lovely chats about like the kids and the nativity plays and like all the great crack that, you know, should come. And you know, they'd be dressing up their kids in like keffiyehs or like tea towels, you know, to make them look like the old wise men. And, you know, Mary would be having a white shawl over her head. And like my grandmother wore a white shawl on her head very loosely. It wasn't like a hijab. It was just a white shawl. She always had her hair showing a wee bit, but this was like a long, and I can show you photos after this, but that was traditional. That's like ingrained in Palestinian traditional dress, that will have the long robes of the tatrees, and the women, especially if the older women and the elderly women, they don't cover their head per se. It's just a white shawl that sits there all the time, regal. And it's exactly the same thing that Mother Mary wears in every statue and every painting. You know, like the you know, the kids at the Nativity play wear these long robes. They basically look like Bedouins. They're all wearing thobes. And I find it, you know, we dress up as Arabs, we dress up as Palestinians every Christmas, but for some reason we haven't connected the dots that, you know, of the representation that the native people are of Palestine have always been the native people. And sure, we're dressing up as them, you know, pretending that, oh, this is biblical times, but the Palestinians of today still dress up as the biblical times. You know, why? I suppose the dissociation, I just don't understand the dissociation. And I suppose the dissociation is that they have absolutely been unpurposely written out of their own history, do you know?
You mentioned as well that the amount of translations that have happened in the Bible, and that's really interesting. That kind of idea of we, you know, the Roman Catholic Church, that is the church that Ireland or identifies with, and even that, the Roman Catholic Church, it's like you said something a couple of weeks back. It's like it's almost like Jesus is Italian. You know,
he started in Rome.
just talk to me about the translating of the Bible as well, and that what we lose in it, and who translates it, who is the interpreter of it, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm not entirely sure who translated the Bible, but I think that the main thing that is a big difference, definitely, that I know of from growing up and the teachings that I had, was that the word of Jesus, you know, the word of God through Jesus was never written at the direct time that he was preaching his messages, so it all came after his death, and whereas I suppose, like, Islam is meant to be a amalgamation of all the three books. So in Islam and in the Quran, you know, we start off with the story of Jesus. Like, Jesus, the Prophet Jesus, is also a huge prophet in Islam. You know, he's highly respected, as are all the previous prophets before Jesus, the Hebrew prophets. You know, the Abraham and all, like, they'd be all the prophets of God. You know, so I suppose the last one is the Prophet Muhammad, God rest his soul, is his message. And the thing is that he was an illiterate man, and but he was able to recite the word of God, and it was directly written from his recitations, I think that's a word, directly written down onto paper. But basically, the Quran is meant to be all the previous words of God, and the prophets and the messengers are in the Quran. So Jesus is also our prophet. Abraham is also our prophet. And I suppose when we come to today, and in Ireland, you know, the Bible is in English. Sure, the Bible was never written in English. It wasn't even written in Latin. You know, the Roman Catholic Church. You know, the Semitic languages that I know of and that are today are Aramaic, Hebrew, and Arabic. And, you know, Jesus was a Hebrew man, but he didn't speak Hebrew as a first language. Aramaic was his first language, you know. So the Bible would have been written in Aramaic and in Hebrew and Arabic. You know, Arabic is a 2,000-year-old language. It's one of the oldest languages. Just like Arabia, all that area, the oldest regions. So all of these places have been translated. Like, you know, the word of Jesus was translated into Latin and French and English. And English came very, you know, late.
And that brings us back to that idea of representation, translation, co-opting. You know, that what you're trying to say is, can we take some time in the week before Christmas, in the context of this genocide of Palestinians that we are watching on our mobile phones, that it will in some way colour, infuse, change our opinions around how we celebrate, how and why we celebrate Christmas. What is the source of it, you know?
Exactly.
And I have to speak about yesterday, the massacre of 2 Christian Palestinians in the Holy Family Church in Gaza. So this is the reason why we wanted to speak today on the live. I have a feeling my phone is going to knock me off, because I have a limit on my Instagram, and it's just after coming up with a notice to say I have 5 minutes left. So if it does knock us off, we'll come back.
Okay, no problem.
But I think for people who haven't seen it, if it's okay, Roisin, I might just read a little bit from the statement from the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem that was released yesterday, Saturday the 16th. And this is a stamped and sealed and verified statement from the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, the head of the Christian community in Jerusalem. So around noon yesterday, December 2023, 16th, a sniper from the Israeli occupation forces murdered 2 Christian women inside the Holy Family parish in Gaza, where the majority of Christian families have taken refuge since the start of this war. Nahida and her daughter Samar were shot and killed as they walked to the sisters' convent. One was killed as she tried to carry the other to safety. So a mother and daughter, Nahida and Samar Anton, I don't know who tried to save who, but a mother and daughter, Palestinian Christians, were killed outside the sisters' convent of the Holy Family parish in Gaza. 7 more people were shot and wounded as they tried to protect others inside the church compound. There are, I think, somewhere in the region of 700 Christians in Gaza. There are 500 of them who are displaced and who are seeking refuge in this Holy Family parish. I'm just going to say that again. A week before Christmas, there are 500 Christians. And this is not me. I suppose I'm trying to appeal to people, Irish people of the Christian Catholic faith, who haven't been able to access a way to speak about this or to understand this or to relate to this. 500 Christian Palestinians seeking refuge in a church right now, and they're being attacked by the Israeli occupation forces. 2 of them murdered in cold blood, not terrorists, not armed, not anything, civilians. And no warning was given. I'm back to the statement from the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. No warning was given. No notification was provided. They were shot in cold blood inside the premises of the parish. Earlier this morning, yesterday morning, a rocket fired from the Israeli occupation tank targeted the convent of the Sisters of Mother Teresa, missionaries of charity. All of these terms and names we can all relate to. Convent is home to 54 disabled persons. They are all displaced. 54 disabled persons, and is part of the church compound, which was signalled as a place of worship since the beginning of the war. The building's generator, the only source of electricity because Israel has cut off all electricity for 2 months, was also damaged and was destroyed. All the fuel resources for the church and for the parish and for the congregation, the 500 people who are there for safety, was destroyed. They have no fuel for the generators. The house was damaged by the resulting explosion and massive fire. 2 more rockets fired by the Israeli tank targeted the same convent and rendered the home uninhabitable. The 54 disabled persons who are currently displaced and without access to respirators that they need to survive. In addition, as a result of the heavy bombing in the area, 3 people were wounded inside the church compound last night. Furthermore, solar panels and water tanks, which are indispensable for the survival of the community, were destroyed. I'm just going to repeat again for anyone who's joined. There are 500 of the 700 Christian Palestinians in Gaza who are seeking refuge because they have been displaced in the last 2 months. Their homes have been destroyed. It is a week before Christmas. Anyone who is listening, who hasn't been able to access their heart or their humanity around this. I know most people who are tuned in already have. We're preaching to the choir here. But it can help anyone to get outside of the conditioning that this conflict, this war, as it's called, that is over in the Middle East, where we, year after year after year, we hear, oh, there's no peace in the Middle East, and we pray for it. But we cannot celebrate Christmas this year without knowing that
what's going on.
Yeah, in the Holy Land.
Yeah, in the Holy Land. So yeah, we're celebrating the birth of, essentially a man from Palestine who, and if he was born today, he'd be born in occupation. He'd be born with no rights. He'd be born in Bethlehem, an Arabic-speaking town, where the Christian population and the Muslim population are under occupation. You know what I mean? The population, the Christian population of Gaza is small, but 700 is tiny, whereas there was more at the start of this war. Sure, in the first or second week, they bombed Al Ahli Hospital, which is essentially, Al Ahli Hospital was a hospital and a church. It's one of the oldest hospital churches, and Christian families and Muslim families were taking shelter there. They bombed that. After they bombed the hospital, I can't, at this stage, don't know which came first because it's all horrific and horrendous, but they bombed the Saint Porphyrios. I can't say that name because it's Greek, but it's basically the Greek Orthodox Church in Gaza, and it's one of the oldest churches. Do you know what I mean?
Can I ask you a question?
Mm,
You mentioned something at that interfaith Christmas gathering that you attended.
mm.
You said that, can we start to dispel this idea that Christians and Muslims have been fighting for, tell me.
Forever, yeah. So I think what would kind of like, I definitely get triggered, and kind of, I don't understand. I do understand, but it doesn't. It's not correct. Is how Christianity today has become like a white man's religion. Christianity is all for, Ireland, England, France. It's like all a Western religion almost, and Islam is like almost the brown man's religion down there, where like there's always war and all that. And I suppose all of that is incorrect, because all these religions, like Christianity, is a Middle Eastern religion. Do you know what I mean? It originated, its source, its origin is in Palestine. All the three monofaith religions, are from the Middle East, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all the Middle East. Judaism and Christianity started in Palestine. How is it that now we can still, like, almost like a little bit like culture or religious appropriation, we can take that and just, Jesus has become our blonde and white fellow, he's almost from like Italy or Arkansas or Limerick, and we've just totally taken away from the fact that he's a Middle Eastern man. He was Hebrew, he spoke Aramaic, and he was from Bethlehem, which is a real place today. All the real churches that you read about in the Bible, they exist, and they exist today. And even a nice story of, like, Christians and Muslims in the Holy Land and around the Arabic world have been living together side by side. In Palestine, you have a family with the last name called Zion. In Arabic, it's Sayun. Half the family is Muslim and the other half of the family is Christian. They intermarried, some people converted. So Christianity is, the last time I went to Jordan, I wanted to light a candle. We went to the church in the neighborhood, and Mother Mary's there, and all the the like, it's fascinating to me, because I've only ever, like, the churches I went to in Ireland, everything is in Latin, or everything is like, whereas everything was in Arabic. The gospel was in Arabic. Mother Mary looked the same.
What do Palestinian Christians call God?
Allah. That's his name. It's
What do Palestinian Christians call God?
Allah. They
Yeah.
call him Allah because, it's one God, guys. Yeah.
You mentioned that Christians and Muslims, but like the three religions, all three lived
side by side. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in Palestine, like, it's very unfortunate today that with the state of Israel, there is no such thing as a Palestinian Jew anymore. But we did have a very small population of Palestinian Jews, who were Jewish, who spoke Jewish, and who spoke Hebrew and Arabic. And unfortunately, with the creation of Israel, and foreign, I suppose, Jews from outside, they either picked a side, which was the Israeli side, and got absolved into this new identity, or they didn't agree with it and they left. And there's actually a very good, an amazing rabbi to listen to called Rabbi Weiss, Weiss, and him and his family, he talks about it. They lived in Jerusalem, and the Palestinians were their neighbors. They used to babysit their children, and when the state of Israel creation happened, they didn't agree with it because it's totally against Judaism. And these are his words, and from the Torah, it's totally against Judaism for Jews to go back to the Holy Land and almost take it back. And that would be, I would really direct, he's a religious scholar. I would really direct people to his page to listen to his videos where he discusses that. So him and his family left when the state of Israel was created, but they also lived there for centuries, So I just I suppose just for people to know that all the religions, you know, the monolithic, is it monolithic, or that religions that we're celebrating here, like the birth of Jesus and Christmas and when Easter comes and his resurrection, all of these things that we are following um, took place in Palestine, you know, like the dress code hasn't changed too much from biblical times to now. And that's apparent in, you know, like my grandmother's dress code, very traditional, and it was like wasn't about being conservative. It was about, you know, the tradition of the village, and all the elderly women wore white on their heads. It was a sign of respect. And
Yeah, I'm conscious of not going on too long because I know people will want to move on, but we can always
we
archive.
can come back if this is a hit.
Uh, Two more things just to finish off the end of that letter from the statement released yesterday from the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. At the very, he said, together in prayer with the whole Christian community, we express our closeness and condolences to the family affected by the senseless tragedy at the Holy Family Parish in Gaza. At the same time, we cannot but express that we are at a loss to comprehend how such an attack could be carried out, even more so as the whole church prepares for Christmas. Yeah.
Like, these people are left completely unprotected. So the 500 people that are in the Roman Catholic Church in Gaza have been there for many weeks because, like their Palestinian Muslim brothers, their neighborhoods, they all got bombed. You know, their houses were destroyed. So you have 500 people taking refuge for many weeks in a church, you know, and Gaza already has, like, we're being told there's no water, you know, there's like the disease, the bodies, the smell.
And the vicious pointed attack on the heavy bombing yesterday, that it took out all the solar panels, all the water tanks. And just to repeat as well, for a lot of people who haven't been here from the start, there are 54 disabled people who have refuge, who, some of whom need respirators, who don't have it because the Israeli occupation forces have bombed all of the fuel, the generator, the only source of electricity. So yeah, I'm really happy we were able to have this chat, Roisin, and I'd love to do more. Just to finish with the fact that the Christmas celebrations, any superfluous Christmas celebrations other than Mass, has been cancelled in Bethlehem, across Christian communities in the occupied West Bank. And the manger that is in the Church of the Nativity is just a pile with the figure of the baby Jesus in the middle and everyone else around him trying to search for him. So just a reminder that as we celebrate the birth of the baby Jesus, and maybe for parents who are going to Nativity Plays, for grannies and granddads, you know, this week, that there might be some way to allow children to know.
Yeah, I suppose at the end of the day, we're not trying to ruin Christmas for anyone, or especially for the young kids who, you know, should be sheltered from this absolute murder that we're watching, because none of us are right, you know, like, this is horrific. You know what I mean? But this is for the adults in the room. This is for the people who know. And I suppose keep Palestine in your prayers, but know, I suppose, just know the origin of the source. And like the Muslim Christian interfaith meeting that I went to a few days ago, which was kind of held by the Quakers, and Quakers do fantastic work in the Holy Land. You know, their whole message is peace. Quakers like often go to the occupied towns in Palestine where they're being like literally brutalized by settlers and soldiers, and the Quakers will go and like walk the kids to school as witnesses, but also protection. And I suppose what we're seeing here is that all of Gaza is a target hit for, you know what I mean? Like, they have no mercy, but they also have no logic, you know. Like, I don't know how many it's not one hospital that has been hit, it's many hospitals. It's not one church that's been hit, it's many churches. It's not one mosque, it's many mosques. And we're talking, not only are the people losing their lives, but the source of culture and the source of faith and religion, which started off in the Holy Land, is also at risk. You know, so for anyone who is in faith, and I suppose I'll just read this quick snippet from the program. It was about the Prince of Peace, who is Jesus, and it was a Muslim and Christian get together. And the whole point is to bring the two communities together because they originate in the same place. You know what I mean? So this is, as a community, Quakers are pacifists and refuse to take up arms. Rather, in all situations, we should seek to build peace upon the pillars of the social justice and equity between warring factions, so that, and this is taken from the Bible, a nation shall not lift up sword against another nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose we're just trying to really, we're not here to ruin Christmas for anyone, and definitely not to ruin for the kids, but definitely to let you know that you're dressing up your children as Palestinians and you're celebrating the birth of a Palestinian child. And you know, I would have thought that the same care and attention that we're putting into the celebrating of a beautiful baby, we could do the same for the children who are literally hanging on by a thread, if not losing their lives and losing their limbs. And you know, these people in all of Gaza and the West Bank, in all of the Holy Land, but especially Gaza now because there's a genocide happening there, they are completely unprotected. There is no one protecting them. You know what I mean? Like, where is the UN? Where is the, like, I'm struggling, as many people are, to connect the dots of how we can celebrate the birth of a child when we're literally seeing some of the most horrific things coming out of Gaza, like children with no limbs. And you know, there's no protection. You know, like they're going into hospitals, they're going into churches. Like, another horrific story was that people who were sheltering, these are severely wounded people now who have no, people who were sheltering in the Kamal Adwan hospital courtyard, who couldn't move because they're so wounded and they have nowhere to go, were literally bulldozed in their sleep. They came with bulldozers and they buried them alive. This is not, you know, a moral army fighting other men with guns. They're fighting children. They're not fighting children. They're murdering children and people wounded. So, you know, I think we all have to kind of take note to this. This was never a religious war. You know, this is never two religious people. This is not, oh, the Holy Land is just on fire because all the religions want to take. No, this is not it. This is a colonial power that no one has brought to justice, and they can do what they want, which is what we've seen for 2 months. They're doing what they want. Yeah. So, you know, in the name of God and in the name of humanity and, you know, in the name of peace, start talking about this. But not even start talking about this, start knowing that, yeah, Jesus was a Palestinian.
54 people who are still live with us here, the 35 people who are still live with us here, if every single one of them can commit to having a conversation over their Christmas dinner with their family and asking another friend to do the same, and asking that other friend to do the same, to maybe go through some of the points that we've talked about. Because as much as I've been invested in the last year and trying to learn more and trying to understand more, it's the simplest of things that make the pennies drop, that make me see the delusion or the illusion that I've been living under, and kind of seeing the source of the religion that is such a central part of who I am as a white, Irish, Western, Christian raised person, that it is in this town called Bethlehem, that is not a fictitious place, that is under brutal occupation. Right now, I know everyone is thinking about Gaza, but Bethlehem, Jenin, all of the Ramallah, all of these cities and towns in the West Bank, children, men, women are being killed and arrested.
And imprisoned. And like, just because they're Palestinian, just because they exist, it's really unfortunate for a colonial state to to have a native population that won't go away.
Yeah.
You know, and like, the fact of the matter is they don't want peace, because if they did want peace, they just let them live. Sure, we could, you know what I mean? They just let them live and exist, and sure, we can all go under Israeli passports if you want. Nobody cares. Everyone's going to be who they are at the end of the day. But that's not what they want. And just like we know now, you know, this war was never about finding Hamas fighters, because where are they? Show me the videos of the fighting. All I'm seeing is videos of massacres. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, 3 Israeli hostages who were released by Hamas yesterday were shot by the IDF, by their Israeli brothers. Why? Because they thought they were Palestinians. And
Yeah.
the whole thing is like, shoot them first, think later, because they don't matter. You know, and it's very unfortunate now that they've just got 3 of their hostages.
And it's also important to say that those 3 Israeli hostages were shirtless and were waving white flags. They looked like innocent Palestinian men.
Yeah.
And they were shot.
Yeah.
And also important to say that all 3 of those Israeli hostages who were shot, their pictures appeared on the RTE News website. I don't see civilians, Palestinian civilians, who are getting...
No, where are the pictures of the 2 Christian Palestinian ladies who were shot? A mother and a daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where are their photos? But we're then going to go celebrate Christmas here. But, you know, like, there is a reason on purpose. And unfortunately, we're all involved indirectly. But there is a reason why, you know, Palestinians have been written out on purpose as if they don't matter from their own history. And that's to, like, delegitimize their claim that they're the native people. But sure, we don't need to claim that we're the native people. We are the native people. We've got the feckin' thobes and the headdresses and the culture and the food and the, you know, the names of towns in stitched into our dress, you know. So, like, all you need to do is open that box and you'll realize how much you've been lied to, or how much has been kept from you on purpose. Like, all of this is on purpose. You know, RTE, all our news stations, you know, why are they showing why is there such a bias? You know, the photos of the 3 hostages, but not the photos of the 2 Christian women who were shot outside a church or going to the convent. This is, you know, and this is the east, the west and the east, and this is our problem. You know, anybody who's brown or maybe from the global south is too different from us, which is not correct when, you know, we're celebrating the birth of a man from the global south. We're, you know, and the religion that we're celebrating is Middle Eastern. It's from Palestine. Yeah, Habibi, like, the prayers were in Arabic before they were in English. What are you talking about? So, you know, this is not to ruin anyone's fun. This is just to let you know that you better you pay attention. You better pay attention.
Come here, Roisin. We said we chat for 20 minutes and it's gone on for 45.
Sorry.
Thanks for join in, and I think it's my first time to do an Instagram live, so I will try. Yeah, and just to reiterate, just a call to action. If everybody who is on this call can commit to having a conversation over a Christmas dinner, over Christmas Eve, drinks, whatever, with family, with friends, and if you can ask someone in your family to do the same, or someone in your friends,
and ask your priests as well. You know, ask your priests.
We're going to go on for another 10 minutes. I know we are. This is why you were invited to that interfaith Christmas service, and you did ask the priests who were present to...
I asked the Bishop of Galway. I didn't... Whoops. I asked the Bishop of Galway, I was like, why don't people my age know that Bethlehem and Nazareth are real places and that they're Arabic Palestinian towns? Why don't we know that, you know, the Israelites and Philistines were 2 old, ancient Canaanite tribes that have nothing to do with Israel and Palestine, when this information all religious scholars have, but it's not clarified. It's allowed to, you know, go unchallenged, which unfortunately is used by the Zionist propaganda machine to be like, oh yeah, we were there first. We've always been there 2,000 years ago. Nobody knows where they were, you know, 800 years ago, let alone 2,000 years ago.
And in that case, let's start a campaign to return the land to all native peoples in America.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
if that's the rationale, and if that's the if that's the banner. Roisin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Appreciate that. Thank you.